I have always been a very literal person my entire life, especially when I was in high school and a young adult. I have been such a literal person over the years that at times people would tell a joke and I wouldn't be able to tell. They would say, that was supposed to be funny. You were supposed to laugh. That was a joke. Sometimes I would even ask them to explain why it was funny. This literalism landed me in a colloquial conundrum later on in the story. But before I continue, let me switch gears and you will see how this fits in. How many of you are familiar with the biblical account of Jonah and the whale? Raise your hand, please, if you are. Great. I feel like a Sunday school teacher here, but Jonah was running from something, wasn't he? Who can tell me what Jonah was running from? Yes, he was running away from God. God had told him to go preach to the town of Nineveh. Jonah didn't want to. He blew God off, so to speak, went about his own way, but God kept calling him to do this. Finally, Jonah thought, I know what I'll do. I'll board a ship to the city of Tarshish where God can't find me. He did. He boarded a ship. A huge storm arose. The ship was tossing and turning. The fellow sailors were calling out to their private gods and saying, why is this happening to us? They started throwing cargo overboard. Finally, Jonah raised his hand, supposedly, and said, it is I. I'm the one that's caused this disaster. I'm running away from God. Let me jump over the ship. And I promise you the waters will calm down. He did jump over the ship. Not sure what happened to the sailors, but he landed in the belly of a whale inside the ocean. Did that happen to me? No, but I was running. I was running away from responsibility as a graduate student at Bowling Green State University. I was just months from obtaining my master's degree, except I was running away from the responsibility of writing my, as they call it, a thesis. I would do anything to escape writing that paper, anything. So much so that I decided one summer, instead of writing my paper, to take a summer job at the Holly Lodge Motel at Bowling Green State University as a maid. The Holly Lodge is located right off the exit when you go to BG. It was a very popular hotel. It's not there anymore. Anyways, I would rather empty a wastebasket, change a sheet on a bed than write that paper. One morning while I reported to work, now reporting to work meant just punching in a time, punching in, putting your little card in. Our office, so to speak, for the maids was the room where the washers and dryers were. We didn't have an office. It was blazing hot. It was blazing hot in the summer. There was no air conditioning in there. Dryers were running. It must have been well over 95 degrees. But one morning, as I punched in and was about to ask my supervisor, Thelma, which rooms I was to clean, I observed a conversation. Let me explain the cast of characters. My supervisor, Thelma, was talking to another benign person I'll call Sarah. I don't remember her name. They were talking about a third maid who was not in the room at the time. Now, Thelma had curly, short hair. She always wore glasses. She never stopped moving. She was continuously folding a sheet, taking something out of the dryer, and she always had a cigarette in her mouth. All right, Crow. I showed up to work. I was about to say, which rooms would you like me to clean today? But in the meantime, another woman said to Thelma, talking about a third person named Betty. Betty was a young woman, married, 2 small children. She was a maid. And Sarah said to my supervisor, Thelma, where's Betty? And Thelma said, she's stripping. This other woman said, she's stripping. Why is she stripping? Because I told her to. The other woman said, well, how long has she been stripping? Now I'm observing this whole thing, this very literal person. How long has she been stripping? Oh, she's been stripping. She's been stripping all morning long. Where has she been stripping? Oh, she's been stripping up and down the hallways on the 2nd floor and the 1st floor. Well, why has she been stripping up and down the hallways, the 2nd and 3rd floor? Well, I just told her she's been stripping all morning long. Now, during this time, I was listening with abject horror, thinking, what type of burlesque establishment have I applied to? Why is Betty, this wonderful young woman with 2 children, married, stripping down the hallway? But nevertheless, this conversation kept going on and on. Now she's stripping. In the meantime, finally, this other woman left. And Thelma happened to notice me out of the corner of her eye as I was about to say, oh, what would you like me to clean today? She took a good long look at me and she said, you've been listening to this conversation the entire time, haven't you? I said, yes, I have. She said, you heard me say that Betty's been stripping all morning, haven't you? Yes, I have. You thought that I meant that she was taking her clothes off that entire time, didn't you? I said, well, yes. She then took a long drag, squinted at me. Now get to work. I then felt about that tall, took my assignment, and started stripping the sheets off the bed, of course. What I wanted to say is that this is just a little mini exercise, I think, in culture, colloquialisms, how we denotations and connotations of words. All I can tell you, fellow Toastmasters, is that when I was growing up and my mother said, time to clean your room, girls. I shared a room with my sister, time to clean your room. She would say, please take the sheets off the beds. We're going to do laundry. So did my grandmother. So did my aunt. No one ever just said to me, start stripping. No one ever said that to me. Therefore, you must understand my horror as I went through this. That is my lesson. That is our Wall Street Journal essay, colloquialisms, and how this leads to misunderstandings and deep, who knows, maybe that had something to do with the Hatfield and McCoys. Why do people misunderstand each other? I now know why I was in such a state of horror that day. Please pray for me that I will not be so literal in the future. Thank you.